speakers is, just trying to find the form here. All right, Pat Johnson, do you have the form back, the list?
No.
Oh, okay. I have it here somewhere. Mr. Johnson.
Commissioners, my name is Pat Johnson. I'm founder of the President of Texas Towing Compliance. I want to come up here and let y'all know that during the January 5th meeting, the police department outright lied to y'all about the tow contract. One of the lieutenants, when y'all were questioning him about the cost and about this program, made the comment that San Antonio is using the same program. That's totally false. There's 9 cities across the United States that went with auto return in the beginning and canceled that contract because the GPS and locating the tow trucks is not based on GPS attached to the tow truck, but based on cell phone GPS. And we all know that cell phone GPS is not really accurate. We talk about this 20-minute response time, just like I told the council this past week. Domino's was sued 10 years ago when everybody said about a 20-minute response time to deliver pizzas because everybody racing to the scenes for an accident or deliver a pizza. We got an open records request this morning from the city of Austin. There's 117 emails between the police department, Southside Wrecker, and Austex, and the contractor doing the no contact clause of the contract. And we had this issue on the contract that they just got finished on because they changed the revenue generator in it. We've had issues with Southside where they're sending the notification letters to vehicle owners through a rural post office in Nome, Alaska, or Little Rock, Arkansas, that causes the delay in the notification letter getting back to the lien holder or the vehicle owner from 7 to 10 days. So when someone finds their car, they got an extra $300 or $400 in storage fees. That's just not fair. Recently, like they said at the council meeting this last week, that there's only going to be like 3 companies that's going to get that contract. One of them don't even have a heavy-duty record. The contract says there's no subcontracting. But how's Lakeside going to pick up a heavy-duty wrecker in that one zone if he don't have a heavy-duty tow truck to turn that vehicle over? You know, you're basically cutting all the tow companies that's been participating in the rotation program out of the loop. And they depend on that income to support their business and support their families. And giving it to one tow company versus another is just simply not fair. Now, I told Chief Acevedo, and we had a conversation prior to last meeting, it'd be better to let code enforcement enforce the record ordinance, because they got 20 to 30 investigators that are all master peace officers could do the same thing that the 2 detectives that work 4 days a week could do. We've got tow companies now that can't get them to return their calls, and then get licenses issued to their drivers, and they just won't return the calls. So I just want y'all to please take in consideration of the facts, because you're not getting them from our own police department. Thank you.
Hey, sir. Chief Manley, did you want to respond at all?
To Mr. Johnson's initial point, I actually went back and watched the video today, and when we did give kind of an example of some cities that were going with the tow program, San Antonio was mentioned incorrectly. San Antonio does not have a managed tow program. We did not actually name the vendor that we are planning to go with back in January, because the contract's not been awarded, and so those are sealed bids. So the other issues that Mr. Johnson brings up as far as compliance with previous contracts, we did not discuss, and that's something that the corporate purchasing takes into account when they grade out all of the proposals that they received. And ultimately they did select one vendor that came out on top, and that is the proposed vendor that we would move forward with. As far as tow truck companies being cut out, every tow truck company, if they meet the requirements from the managed vendor that we would hire, would have the opportunity to participate. And if there's any questions, I guess, regarding any of the other issues Mr. Johnson brought up, I will address those.
Mr. Johnson, I do want to say that this is, it's not the role of this particular commission to advise the city on specific contracts or details of some contracts. I will, though, remind everything that one of the strong recommendations that came from this commission when you last presented was that there be a review put in at a certain time period to see how whatever is implemented, see how it's working and see what any issues are. That's probably the extent of all that we can do. The rest, I imagine, would be city council.
But when you have the current contractor, going out and buying equipment to qualify prior to the contract being awarded, and him going out and telling all of his employees getting awarded the contract and hadn't even been awarded by council, that's a conflict of interest.
But it may be, sir, but I'm just saying it's outside of our policy recommendation
I understand
thing.
that, but you know, a lot of municipalities and law enforcement are going to a software that eliminates that third-party vendor called Tow Exchange. And there's probably about 70 to 150 cities across the United States using that, because when an officer arrives on a collision scene, he needs a tow truck, he can enter the information right there on his laptop, and it dispatches the closest tow truck to the accident scene.
All right, thank you, sir. Andrew Bucknell, please.